There we go. All right, one more for Twitter. So I'm Charles, this is Colin. So Colin and I have known each other for way back since about 2001. I moved here from Canada and my first job that I got was with Colin, just around the corner actually, not too far down the street here. So our backgrounds, I guess we both started out in the mining technology space, mining information systems, and both sort of went on to start our own businesses, around various bits and pieces related to software in different industries. And today we're here to talk about Social Pinpoint. We're not going to focus too much on the product itself, more about the journey that we've gone through with the business. But that being said, we thought it's probably best just to kick off with a bit of an overview video that does show what the product does. So maybe we'll just run that first if we can.
We all know that effective community engagement leads to better project, policy, and strategy outcomes. This has been difficult in the past, as traditional methods only reach a small cross-section of the population and usually the same profile of person. Citizens are increasingly expecting to be involved in decisions affecting them, and they want to engage online. Social media and other generic online tools may increase feedback, but the conversation can quickly become uncontrolled and off-topic. Introducing Social Pinpoint, a dedicated community engagement platform. Social Pinpoint allows you to quickly sign up, set up, and launch your project. You'll collect quality feedback and information with increased participation rates from a broader audience. With access to live reporting and analytics, you can quickly understand your information and start to find meaningful insights. By involving and understanding your community and stakeholders, you'll make better decisions, which lead to better outcomes for everyone. Social Pinpoint, a place to engage your community.
Great, so hopefully you got the message from that video that we build tools to help people who are trying to engage with their communities and stakeholders. So think about major planning, construction, infrastructure projects. You drive down the street, you see something happening and you don't know what it is, you don't know why it's happening, and you get frustrated because you weren't involved in the planning and decision-making process, because this is where you live and you've got ownership of where you live in your community. When you talk to the people running these projects, they're frustrated as well because they're actually trying to tell you. They want you to know what's happening because that just leads to better outcomes. So we just found that there was a bit of a gap in the market where they needed better tools. So as far as we know, I think we're the only platform that we've seen globally that's a pure SaaS model where you pay for a subscription and use self-service tools for community engagement. Most of the other people in this space focus on consultancy revenue, so we saw a bit of an angle to get into it. So we flick to the next slide. I'll just run you through right from the beginning. So let's go back to 2013, had no bloody idea what community engagement was, who was in the space, anything about it, what tools they were using. We were writing software. We had some experience with mapping software, and I believe it was Port Stephens Council approached us to do a custom interactive mapping solution for a strategic planning project that they were working on. So it came across my desk, and Colin at the time was doing a bit of work with us, and sort of had a look and we thought, what the heck is this? And we had a bit of a look and we kind of understood what it was. I think I overquoted the heck out of the job and was sort of happy to lose it because it was pretty different to what we were doing at the time. Once they nominated someone for that project, we actually just stopped and watched what they did, and we saw that, okay, well, they've just gone and spent 50 grand on this custom solution. It's pretty ugly, but we saw that there was a use case for what they were doing across a wide range of different projects. So we thought, well, maybe there is a bit of a market here, and maybe it is something that we should have a look at. At the same time, we were pretty keen on exploring the whole SaaS space. So, software as a service. Customers come to your website, sign up for a trial, pay by credit card without, having to go to meetings and, deal with them sort of thing. So that's, the holy grail if you can get to that stage. So, shortly after Port Stephens contacted us, Lake Macquarie Council contacted us, and to be honest, I think it was they needed 3 quotes and they had 2 and we were the 3rd. Yep. And we had nothing. Well,
it was because they had Port Stephens still on the RFP.
Yeah, that's right. I think it was the same consultant that they used. So Colin and I got together and we thought, let's have a bit of a look at this. And we approached them. We said, look, we've got nothing. We've got a few ideas. Do you guys want to take a bit of a punt on us? And we think we can do something pretty cool here. They went with us. So.
Yeah, end of the day, I think what we did here really solidifies the idea of building an MVP. We actually sold them on Upworked graphics, a subscription. We sold them a subscription, which we had no product for. Totally told them that. It wasn't lying or anything. We just said, look, we can build this, but we want you to be the first subscription. So it was not a consultancy agreement. And they, I think, wanting to support local people, they actually went with it as well. And so I missed, basically it was like a month of hard hacking to get the thing up and running. I missed a trip to the Gold Coast where my family went up and left me for the weekend, or a long weekend. And we got it all up and running in pretty much a couple of weeks. And then, there was a few weeks of back and forth. Technical was that we had a Google scare right near the end where we went one tech framework about to launch and then find out it wasn't going to do the job, so we had to rip it all out and replace it with something else, like the weekend before we went live. But it went up and they had, 100x participation rates on that project that they originally used us for, and went on to use. They've been customers now for, the whole time, 4 years. Anything around that one?
Yeah, just like when we were looking at having a crack at it, it was more about this, let's do it as a business kind of thing. So that's when we started doing the market research. Who are the competitors and talking to people. So yeah, it's a great idea, that's fine. But firstly, is there a problem that needs solving? And secondly, will they actually pay to solve it? So we started asking those questions and finding out, was there anything here? And it's not that hard to reach out to people. And we walked down the street to Newcastle Council and started to talk to some of the other sort of local governments and found out fairly quickly that, hey, maybe there was something in this.
Yeah. And I think the other thing to understand is we went into this, like you hinted on a little bit before, that we didn't really know the space massively, but we wanted to build a total, like both our other companies were a lot of consultancy. Yours was a lot more product still. But we wanted to build a self-contained business that could be sellable. And so the whole thing was all, like everything was systemized right down to all our, the quoting and how we did all that stuff and the product itself. With the goal of doing a full self-service SaaS product that we could just sell at some point down the track. We had no idea what or when. And that's when the journey started. So back in 2013, and like what we were saying, launched our first client with MVP and with Late Mac, and that's quickly spread into all the, like we found, and it's one of our biggest channels right now is referrals. So when one project goes in, it's such a publicly visible site that all the other councils around them just see it and they want it. So we've ended up getting a really big stake in New South Wales, and within, it's probably 3 months, 4 months, we ended up getting our first international client, which that's the Port Metro Vancouver. Yeah. From a side project, revenues were quite low, and I remember going into Christmas at the time thinking, usually Christmas is dead here in Australia, and suddenly we had this huge, port, very complicated map to get built, and so we spent Christmases doing that, which is pretty cool. And then hit our 50K mark sometime early in that sort of first year, and that's when we started thinking. I remember having discussions with Charles around that. We weren't totally sure, was this still going to take off or not, and we were thinking, we've got it's a good side passive income if nothing else. Both end up with some new leases on cars or something, worst case, and just keep that. But it just kept going up, and pretty. I wouldn't say we were doing a lot of hardcore sales. It was organic leads from referrals and things like that.
So it's still just a side project that was just ticking away on its own. Yeah.
And then around this time too, like Charles was saying, not only did we reach out to clients, so I think it's very important in the ecosystem, especially in Australia, is just getting to know the people that are competitors in your industry. I think you'll find that most people are very open to working together. And our background's been integration, so mine's definitely been in business integration. So has yours been mining, it's all integrating. So we started talking to a lot of the other players. So Bang the Table, I don't know if you guys have heard of Bang the Table. They're from here as well. So we have a great relationship with them and started to get a lot of work through their network. And I guess that was coming into some of the discussions that we might even sell to them right back in the early days, because they didn't have anything that was location-based engagement like we did. Well, they might have had something, but it was pretty crap. And we were trying to, our goal of selling the company even started back there a little bit, saying, hey, if the money's right, we would. And so, we've had discussions with them, but it wasn't the right time. 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028, 2029, 2030, 2031, 2032, 2033, 2034, 2035, 2036, 2037, 2038, 2039, 2040, 2041, 2042, 2043, 2044, 2045, 2046, 2047, 2048, 2049, 2050, 2051, 2052, 2053, 2054, 2055, 2056, 2057, 2058, 2059, 2060, 2061, 2062, 2063, 2064, 2065, 2066, 2067, 2068, 2069, 2070, 2071, 2072, 2073, 2074, 2075, 2076, 2077, 2078, 2079, 2080, 2081, 2082, 2083, 2084, 2085, 2086, 2087, 2088, 2089, 2090, 2091, 2092, 2093, 2094, 2095, 2096, 2097, 2098, 2099, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006, I guess the next big milestone is that 2015. This sort of trends into the mining downturn a little bit, when we were getting enough organic sales and stuff that we thought, well, actually we're doing more work on this, and especially you were doing a bit more of the sales, and you were like, well, if I spend more time, we're getting more money, let's do it full time. And that's what we did. We started doing it, and it wasn't long after that we've always talked to. We've known the guys from Slingshot through mining for years. But we started the discussions a little bit earlier. We thought we were a little bit past Slingshot's accelerated, like the startup part, but they had their the new scale-up program. So we discussed it with them about should we go in or not, and they said, I wouldn't say they pushed us, but they definitely gave us that push to sort of get in there. And we ended up doing their normal Slingshot program just because we were in a sort of with our revenue, it was a bit of a weird where we sat in terms of if we should do scale up or not. What did we learn out of the Slingshot thing? That's probably worth talking about. I think it really helped us focus on taking the business into something that we could look at for investment or really systemise the marketing and positioning of the business. Back here, we were probably a little bit more, well, that's a cool market, let's go check that out, or this one's a bit different, let's go check that one out, where they helped us sort of solidify that message a bit more. What else? I guess going out of the Slingshot program, we went into investment mode, I guess, which is what everyone does when you go through these accelerators, at least the Slingshot ones and stuff. They get you investor ready, which is probably what a lot of people want to talk about. I was doing a talk on investment funding sources the other day, newer startups, and I reckon most of the questions that came out of the audience were around how do I get money from an investor? One thing we've learned is that, I'm a big bootstrapper fan, that what we found coming out the back end of Slingshot and talking to investors, particularly Blackbird, was they basically gave us, he said, what was the quote? Nicky Schlack.
If I could reach across the table and slap you, I would.
Yeah. And it was a pretty good quote, because basically he was saying, look, you're getting, at that time we had, is it up there? Yeah, okay, we had it must have been $250,000 of funding from clients. And he said, so you've already got that money and you've already had the Slingshot money. You guys need to, pump that back into the business. And it was a really good boot in the bum.
Yeah, I guess coming out of these accelerator programs and being in that culture, we just thought, have to get investment. Our business is worth 10 million, let's go get $800,000 investment. But, once we sat down in front of these investors, they're like, hey guys, you're getting investment from customers, you're retaining 100% of your business, it's working. Why are you here? Keep doing it.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
And so we pretty much, that really was a big change for us. That was probably around this sort of date, February, March. We got our first office and employed our first full-time employee. We've always used contractors and stuff, but we wanted to sort of build the team out. And then since then, it's just started to ramp up. And that's, for the last 9 months or 12 months now, we've taken on more people and getting more and more sales just without having to take on that investment until we get into, I guess, the next step, which is where we got to. This is about a year old, this thing. This is from an IM.
Yeah, so the next year, I guess, after we sort of decided, hey, let's keep bootstrapping, let's run the business ourselves, let's not give away 40% for money that we don't need. Yeah, we just started to take off, and globally as well, which was exciting. So we hired a few more people. At the moment we're approaching $1 million in revenue. We've completed around 400 projects, and again, all over the world. Probably close to half of our new projects are coming from North America, which is exciting. Worked with some big names, like City of Toronto and City of Sydney, Vic Roads, RMS, and the big names keep coming in, which is really cool. So yeah, it was just satisfying that we were able to do that. We did then hit a point though where we did hit our capability limits, and we did need to look at, okay, we need to get some money. So we saw what some of the other Slingshot people had gone through and just in that startup space, and there was a whole lot of sitting down with people in Sydney for coffee and talking to people and a fair bit of wasting time with people who just wanted to have a chat, and I just really didn't want to go through that. If you know Colin and I at all, that's just not us. So we strategically sought out the two companies in Australia that we thought would actually align with what we were doing and could potentially either invest in us or buy us, both complementary. The first one, like Colin mentioned earlier, was actually a company that originated out of Newcastle and is now one of the global leaders in this community engagement software space. a company called Bang the Table. Got this close with them, 2 or 3 meetings, and meetings were, at the pub having a beer, just, honest chats about, what can we do and strategies and how can this be mutually beneficial. At the end of the day, they decided that they needed to focus on going global themselves and didn't have the resources to get us to where we wanted to be. So we went to the next one, which is a company called Consultation Manager out of Brisbane. They were in the same sort of space as us. They were market leaders in what they did around community engagement, trying to go global, and they were backed by a parent company with lots of money. So initially we talked to them about investing for a percentage of the business, and finally walking down the street one day in Brisbane, we said, stuff this, let's just all in, buy the lot of us, let's come up with an arrangement where we all work together and let's have a crack at the North American market and let's do it together. And that was the deal that we came to. So if you flip to the next slide, back in February, the parent company acquired us, and the acquisition was structured in a way that works for us. So we basically got an initial payment, obviously, at the time, but we stay in control of the business for the next, till July 2019, and we're incentivized based on performance. So we'll get a decent little payout at the end of that period. We stayed on as directors, brought a third member to the board, which is one of them, which gives us that sort of corporate governance and guidance and a kick in the butt when we need it. It's really brought on a lot of accountability, and we're funded. So, they're the bank. So, any strategy that we have that we can do a small test and reproduce that it's going to produce results, they'll fund it. So, if I go to them and I say, look, I've hired 3 people and each one of them's generating 3 times their wages, I need 10. We have those options. So we're in a really cool place. We can actually have a real crack at taking this thing global, and the deal that we've got incentivizes us to do that. So yeah, that was a good thing. Where are we now as far as the team? As far as where we are, I guess, with the team and whatnot, we've got, 8, 9 people, maybe?
Yeah, we're missing, we've got another one starting on Tuesday.
And maybe 9. Another one after a phone call this morning. So we're bringing people on, we're ramping up. We're still trying to run it all out of Australia, so we're actually all here in Newcastle over on Beaumont Street. Still having a lot of fun, seeing month-on-month growth. The culture's really changing from, your 2 blokes doing stuff at home to now we've got a business and all the rooms full of people and all the fun things that go with that.
Yeah, I think you start realising that you can't do all the work anymore, and you have to make sure they're doing the work. So it takes your time out, but obviously it pays off big time. And
really expanding into overseas markets. So at some stage we will have to spend significant time in North America. We've gone over a few times. Obviously, me being from Canada originally, it's not that daunting to have to spend a bit of time over there. That's kind of the goal. Is we're trying to keep accelerating and grow as big as we can between now and our exit in July 2019.
Yep. Just with that, the good thing about finding these partners, so this is Craig, our other director, is this really down to earth. They're an investor, but at the same time, I think they've got their heads screwed on with valuations and what things are worth. And I think sometimes that's different to what you read about when you read a lot of Silicon Valley stuff, which is not the same as Australia. And these guys are very much they pay for, I guess, your EBIT, your earnings, your profit, basically. So they're really incentivizing you to build a business that's actually generating money and value for the shareholder rather than just try and explode out, borrow. Now, okay, that's not applicable to every business. If you're into a real high research business or something in a real niche area, it's different. But our product is very much suited to just go out and it's not brain surgery or anything like that. So it's been really useful having them on board. And as Charles indicated, we're looking at the US market, so are they, and we're doing it in a way, I guess, that was better than their other companies. So that's hence why they also looked at us as sort of market leaders in compared to what they were doing. What's next for us, though? We're 100% dedicated right now to Social Pinpoint. We have to be, and we've got options with the earn-out as well, which is really good. So we can even get some shares back. We can take more in money, whatever it is, depending on the value, which is really useful. And then now we've got, I guess it's validation. There's a few steps of validation. And we've got not only have we got contacts now with, they're called Mindside Holding, which are basically just investment bankers. So for future ideas, future startups, we feel that we've got a good relationship with them to take on. It doesn't have to be in the consultation space, it can be totally different. So they bought into Consultation Manager just because Consultation Manager is a good business, not because it was, a stakeholder engagement platform. So we can see definitely that we'd leverage that down the track with any other idea that we have. But the other thing is just, it's interesting, having gone through the acquisition, noticing the attention now, then the validation that you get just from having done it. Because at the end of the day, like, running a business is hard and being an entrepreneur is hard. You've all heard that thing that, you can tell people your secrets because most of the time no one's going to do it. It's the doing part that's the hard part. And I guess, just even being able to go through that process and negotiate. I mean, how long did they think? It's 6 months, wasn't it, of negotiating back and forth? And Slingshot were involved in that as well. So there's complexity with existing shareholders and learning that loop. It just validates and helps you for the next one to go, right, now I know a lot more. I can contract that time frame.
Yeah, totally. I mean, right from day one, our plan was let's build a business and sell it. Right, that was always our goal, and we did it. And we're pretty proud of that, I guess. We're already starting to think about the next business. And I think it's pretty safe to say it's already funded if it's a good idea because of the relationships we've made. We've learned heaps about, the legal side of things and, where not to waste time and just confidence in sort of backing ourselves to do different things. And it's okay if they fail, life goes on and try the next sort of thing. So yeah, I think we're, when it's not so much if, it's when we start our next venture. It'll definitely be accelerated compared to how we've done this, and just do it again and keep having fun. And eventually that needs to be me cruising down the beach somewhere, learn to juggle.
Yeah, and that's where we are really at the moment. We just thought I'd just tell you the story rather than, harp on the actual specifics of the business or technical challenges or anything. I don't know, is that what if you guys have any questions or want to harp on particular parts, that definitely happy to answer them. Is everyone here? Oh, we've got a question.
So, do you guys consider yourself serial entrepreneurs? And if so, what's the best part of that journey for you guys?
I'd hope I will be. My first business, Tributech, and it's still going technically, is a consultancy, so I don't really class it as it's not very entrepreneurial, it makes money. My stage of life, it needs to make money. I've got a mortgage and 2 kids and all that sort of stuff, which I think is important. This is the first step into sort of getting me out of that in order to be able to then take more risk. And so, I'm always going to be, I think, looking at the next business to look at and get involved in a lot more, but probably at a level, hopefully, where I'm not doing a lot of work in the weeds, but running a business, which is what I'm learning with this, which I did learn how to run a business and not work in it. So,
for sure. I mean, you see so many examples of people who do it poorly yet still succeed, and you're like, no, we can do it better than that. I think we'll always be looking for the next idea. And look, you get caught up in all the hype. At the end of the day, there's one Facebook, there's one Twitter, there's one Google. You're not trying to build a multi-billion-dollar company. You can build decent-sized businesses and be successful and have a bit of fun with it, and you don't have to triple mortgage your house and take all these risks that people think they can. We're in Australia. It's not the Silicon Valley sort of model. It doesn't really work over here. It's a smaller market. I mean, if you want to go do that, go move over there and have a crack. But while we're here, you kind of have to play the game the way it works here, I think.
I mean, I sort of brought that up, I guess, that bootstrapping thing the other day. That's why I'm a big fan of bootstrapping, because there's so many good businesses out there that you won't hear about because you know what they're doing? They're working. We had some feedback once that we may not be that likable to an investor, and I guess at the end of the day, I don't really care. What I really like is that I can show you thousands of emails from clients who absolutely love us, and that's one of our things, is our customer service. When that's our customers, that's what we care about. And if you've got customers, you've got revenue, you've got a business. And there's so many businesses out there that you don't hear of because that's what they're doing. They're running a business. They're not worried about funding. They're not trying to get funding.
That being said, there's nothing wrong with that model too. You just have to choose right at the start which model you want to do, because if you're focused on getting investment to then execute the plan, that has to be pretty much 100% of your focus right from the start. And you're not selling to customers, you're selling to investors. Once you have that money, then you move to the execution. So it's a bit of the timing of how this all unraveled with us, is that, we were too far along to be considered by investors even, probably by the time we did start talking to them, because we were already sort of, had the runs on the board and the money rolling in.
Yeah, I mean, if everyone's watched Silicon Valley, where they're, you want to be pre-revenue.
Yeah, that's right. You totally do. Yeah, yeah. Go to the investor with the idea on the napkin, minimal effort sort of thing. Yeah, as soon as have gone beyond that, go to customers. Get your investment from people who want to pay for what you've got.
Yeah.
Just a question. So software as a service, and a lot of your users are paying credit card. A lot of your clients are government agencies, local councils. So how much of that revenue is through councils paying, or not, sorry, how much, but are you finding a lot of your users actually physically using a credit card, like a once-off, or is it mostly councils and that would be purchase orders?
Yeah, I mean, we do a mix at the moment, and I'd say it's still more. I wouldn't say everyone's paying on a credit card, although a lot of people will pay their invoice on a credit card, so it's fine. It triggers automatically, and they just pay it. The US, though, I don't think they've all been credit card.
Pretty much, yeah. But you're right. Like when you're dealing with local government in Australia, there's a procurement process, but it's a fire off an invoice. It's not really an expensive part of the operations for us. So.
Yeah. But our American online when you actually go and get a trial and do it, it's all US dollars online, pay on credit card. Yeah, and that's the future. It may not be here yet, but that's going to be the future, and that's the vision of Social Pinpoint. This is not our investor deck. Obviously, our investor deck talks about the future's online. People, digital democracy. People want to be involved in government. They want to know their voice is heard. I mean, that's where it's going. It's not going to be some low-tech solution anymore. It's going to be higher tech, so I'll get used to that.
So do you find that, do you find that it's sort of champions within, maybe there's sort of champions internally that bring you on, in the sense of, so you're relying on a skilled practitioner base, if you're using this kind of
sometimes you've got to create those champions.
That's what I mean by
educating them a little bit.
Right.
But
So you're targeting kind of practitioners almost, as opposed to the company itself. For instance, we've just purchased. I'm working for an organisation at the moment familiar with Social Pinpoint. Great product, and we've just purchased Consultation Manager, which is your
system
company. Yeah. And but I've had to push for that a lot internally, and gone through a lot of processes and sort of spruiked it, for want of a better word, because I've used it somewhere else. Yeah. So it's kind of like your marketing is actually this sort of middle practitioner in a way.
We're editing a blog post today actually about how to overcome some of those internal obstacles within your organisation.
We've seen a massive shift though in 3 years. It's interesting. When we first launched, we were talking to town planners and IT people. Yeah. Now we're actually, at least in Australia, you're seeing community engagement specialist roles, which then is a little easier because, as you're saying, they're already a champion internally.
It's what attracted us to this opportunity, this business, because we saw that it was emerging and we were getting in at the start, and we're still sort of leading the way with what we're doing in some aspects of it.
In relation to that, what did the process used to look like for a council? So that's the first part of the question. The second is, your first platform, how many versions along are you from that, and what did you learn along the way?
I'll do the first, you can do the second. So the traditional methods were, things like town hall meetings, paper surveys, letter drops, even some basic web tools. And it's a certain profile person who's going to go to a town hall meeting, stand up at the back and yell at you, and that's not the popular profile of person, you know what I mean? So that was the frustration that we got from practitioners when we first started, was that they just weren't being able to reach that broader cross-section of the population. They've tried tools like social media, but the problem with a lot of the social media platforms was that you just didn't have control. So if the conversation did get off topic or abusive or whatever, there was no way to sort of bring that back in. You couldn't set your own house rules. Look at any thread on the bottom of an article in the Herald, and usually by the second or third comment, it's not talking about the original post anymore, it's just people attacking each other. So, there was a bit of resistance to go online because of those sort of examples and the social media disasters and stuff like that. So, it really just opens it up to that broader cross-section. And yeah, I think that's the single biggest issue with the traditional methods was, small numbers of people and same profile of person.
In terms of versions, I mean, we don't really have versions as such. Obviously, it's just a continually deployed application. However, I would say we've rewritten the front like that. We've got two sides of it, obviously. We've got the administration side, and then we've got the front end, the client, the thing that public use. That public one has been definitely rewritten once fully. But it's probably gone through a couple of different iterations. If you class things like the mapping engine was redone, even though the other bit wasn't, it's probably been about 3.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool. The design and the backlog that we're still working off now is not too far off what we first started with our initial vision. So. Yeah,
and I'm a big proponent of just build little things and get them out there, even if they're not perfect type thing. That's sort of what we do. We don't hold stuff back, hopefully, most of the time. And nothing's going to be perfect, so you might as well just get it out there. People using it's always better feedback than not. Mm-hmm. Does that answer that? Or yeah. I mean, if there's a lesson for new people, it's like you should be rewriting your MVP because you've waited too long. That old saying. Yeah,
or don't be afraid to rewrite too. So just get something out there, get some feedback, get people using it. I've got a friend who's building an app. I won't go into the details, but. He spent months and months and months focusing on scaling, it has to be big enough so, what if I get smashed by 10 million people? Well, go out and find 10 for starters, and then if it works, then you can sort of consider the rest of it. So, it's not that hard to get something out and start getting feedback and get that process started pretty quickly.
Was your startup based on publishing a number of really good articles in peer-reviewed journals, or did you just do it?
No, we just did it.
However, if we did another one, the first thing we would start doing is content marketing, right from
we do a lot of content marketing.
Before you even got it out there, before you released it, start building
months before, build your audience.
On other people's things, or would you set up a landing page?
Landing page, sign up for a newsletter. You do that 6 months in advance.
Once you start thinking about it, really, that's the thing. When you might as well do a bunch of them because you don't know which ones are going to work. So.
Yeah.
The content marketing, it works. We've seen it definitely. It's led to sales. It's just taken a good 12 months, 12 months.
Well, you need to be seen as an expert in your space, and you need to become an expert in your space. And we had no idea what community engagement is, but I'd like to say we've done heaps. After we run 400 projects, you start to become an expert. But it's all there. Just read, research. Go to the conferences, do whatever you have to become that expert, and your content needs to sort of show that as well.
Do you think that puts a bit more pressure though to get that first iteration right? Like you're saying about throwing it out there. Would you throw out what you threw out the first time, which probably was fine and good, I'm sure it was great, if you'd done a bunch of expectation building beforehand? Would that have changed the level that you had gone to market or launched? Or
I think in this space it probably wouldn't have made a difference because the features haven't changed. It was more about just validating your expertise.
Yeah.
But if you were doing an idea that you weren't totally sure on, it might change things.
Yeah. And with that content marketing stuff, it's not something that we necessarily enjoy, and it's not our background, but you have to do it yourself too. You can't just outsource it to someone. You really need to become that person. Even if you're the developer, you still need to be the expert in whatever your business is. So.
When you talked about, you said if you started again, don't start another business, you want to do content marketing early on, how would you balance that with actually building your MVP? Because you'd be very limited on time resources.
Well, I guess it depends if you're only one person there then. Yeah. Well, I don't totally agree that you couldn't outsource some of it. I think you could outsource. Again, it depends because it's one of these things, I think, anything with, I guess if you want to rank as well, there's a difference between what's called pillar articles and, I guess, fluff articles, I don't know what you call them. Yeah. But, it's those pillar articles that you probably want to spend some time on, but you don't have to do them every week.
What do you mean by that?
So like a 4,000 word, detailed whatever. Spend some time there, then get some other articles built.
10 more that are just SEO padding, what I mean? Yeah.
And sites start ranking, I don't know what the thing is, 50,000 words, Google will start picking it up. It'll take 6 months, but, But again, it depends what you're trying to do. If you're trying to validate an idea, you don't need to do content marketing as such. You just need to do a landing page and spend some money on Google AdWords or whatever, and you'll get traffic. So,
You touched a little bit on the legal and governance aspect of the exit process. What were your sort of 2 or 3 key takeouts from that?
Use a lawyer from the start.
Yeah, use a lawyer from the start, and look, at the end of the day, everything comes down to personal relationships.
Yeah.
So make sure you take care of personal relationships right from the start. You know, you have to. That's with everything in business. It does just come down to personal relationships. Yeah.
But it can take time. I mean, look, through no fault of anyone's. I mean, we went back and forth between us, Slingshot, and consultation, well, not consultation manager, but there was multiple iterations of the agreement, which I think it settled on one of the ones that we originally were looking at. But then for some reason, I think even CM were the ones who reneged on that initially, and then they eventually came back around to it. It was a 6-month process, so it's just. I think it happens everywhere.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, even though you're paying a lawyer to review it, you again have to stay on top of it.
Sorry, employ a lawyer,
yeah,
but know what they're doing anyway.
Become a lawyer.
Yeah, because they only do what you want them to do, which is a little annoying, but I guess that's, so, sometimes we would do things and then you'd find out there was another way to do it. You would have thought you would have been told that, but you didn't ask that.
Yeah.
And that's, again, it's just something that you have to learn, I guess.
Yeah, and we ended up in a situation where our lawyer and their
Yes,
lawyer
that
were
was
in
a good one.
furious agreement, I think is the terms they use. So
back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
And that's when we just intercepted and said, hey guys, we all want to do this, let's just get on with it and do it. And and that's where those personal relationships sort of came to it. So yeah.
Were you a company first up, or were you a partnership straight away?
Company day one. Yeah.
Yeah, that took an hour to set up. So
yeah, we don't use any accountants to do any of that stuff, or everything's just online. I mean, I don't know if it's the right thing, but I've done it with all my business. I just pay for it myself, and I mean, I was even listening to a podcast about investment the other day, and some guy was saying, don't even use a financial advisor these days if you're an entrepreneur. Do it yourself. And so I don't know. Is it even changing now? I don't know. Because they don't. Some of these people are in an older generation of. The ideas are changing. Like a financial advisor I went to the other day, didn't even know about. Well, I know they wouldn't know about that spaceship, super fund, but it sort of makes you wonder. That's where I want to be, but they're not. So, yeah.
There's nothing stopping you from being an expert in any field at the moment. Just get on the web and find out about it and read. And
at least to be dangerous, yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, go for it.
I was just going to ask, was there any points along the way that you actually felt like kind of throwing in? And what were those hard parts? Were there any hard parts, that you had to just question things a little bit?
Well, I mean, we can answer that independently, but definitely not throwing it in because it's not that we're risk averse, but we never put ourselves in a situation where there was that immense pressure. We've both got young kids and families, and we have to make a certain monthly income, otherwise our wives will kick us out of the house. So, we made sure that we maintain control to meet that and then, go above that as much as we can. So, I wouldn't say that we didn't take risks. We certainly do take risks and put ourselves out there, but I guess they're educated risks and we try and do things smart.
Yeah, not afraid of the hard work. I mean, you're going to have to put long hours in sometimes and not other times. There was probably some times where we didn't know it would get any bigger, and that's what I joked about before, saying maybe just pay for cars every year. But it wouldn't have been a downer. It was just like, well, if it doesn't work. Because remember, our goal was always build a SaaS product that we could sell. Or the sell was good, but build a SaaS product from ground up. And if we learnt, again, it depends on your goal. If that's what you want to learn, then you've reached it, so it didn't matter what happened.
Yeah, that's probably why we considered the Slingshot program, because we were at we were growing, and we're like, well, I don't think it's going to keep going. We need to do something different if we're really going to take it to the next level. And, we looked at the different options and just it was timely that Slingshot was running a program. We thought, well, we're not going to come out of that worse off, so let's have a crack at that. And, I don't know how much it actually helped the business. But, we both had some, personally, we definitely gained a lot out of it that we can apply to future businesses. So quite valuable for us from that aspect,
Cool.
Please thank Colin in the chat.